Welcome everybody, Jason Seacrest here. We are going to go through a little luchador type character. I had a weekend here where there was an actual taco fest downtown, and they had live luchadors wrestling out in the streets. So kind of inspired this guy, so I thought it'd be a little bit fun to kind of walk you through using the pen tool, using our custom brushes again, and then also just kind of start doing some more with colors as well as shadows, and using a little bit more of the saw tool as well as the Pathfinder. So let's go right into it. I have all of my layers kind of just there so you can kind of see it. I have my inking, I have a shadow layer, and then I have my flat layer, and then I do have some of this offset path as well. So I'm going to just start from scratch so everybody can start along. So if you have anyone that's brand new and following along, we can just go right into it. So 5x5, that seems to work out okay. I am just going to go hide my artboards. The only reason I do that is I think it looks cooler on the video. That is it. So if you guys like seeing your files, go for it. I just think it's easier to kind of work on. Next, we are going to go to File, Place. And then from your resources, what you guys are looking for is our nice little wrestling character. I'm going to go Place. Usually my files are pretty big. You guys can shrink them down to whatever size you guys feel fit. 4x4, that looks pretty good. Now in our layers menu, I'm just going to pull this guy out so we can see it. We have our layer. This has been placed. In my layer menu, I'm just going to drop down and click on template. That's going to, 1, lock it out. 2, it's going to give me more of a little bit of a 50% opacity. Keep in mind, you guys could easily do that in the transparency window and then just lock it out. So if any time you're doing cartoons, or if you want to drop the opacity down even more, you'd be able to do that. Next, let's go new layer, and then let's just double click on that, and let's just call this one inking. So this will be our inking lines. Now in this video, let's just click on our fun pen tool. I am going to do pretty much all the lines first, and then we can come back and do our custom brushes. So we're going to do it a little bit differently here, and that's just for the speed of kind of doing our character here. I want to focus on a little bit more of the advanced stuff with our coloring a little bit later. So I want to kind of crush through our pen tool so we can get right onto it. So I'm going to zoom in. My recommendation, if you guys are starting using the pen tool, zoom in quite a bit. Also zoom in so your pen's not going to be bouncing off the screen. Usually that's a little bit of a frustrating type of a process. Alright, I've got my pen tool. Right now I just have the black stroke, no fill. Click drag. Now my left hand, now keep in mind whenever I say click drag, I am still holding onto my mouse. Alt Option is going to bring it back on itself, and I want this to kind of follow right along. I'm modifying the eyebrow a tiny bit. Now this one I'm actually holding down Shift, and that's going to make it straight across. And I should just be able to click and drag. That looks like it's going to be pretty good for right there. Alts. Now I think I'm going to come and close this guy. Let's just go click, point, and then I can come back with my A. Keep in mind, if I just do my shortcuts, A is the white. That is our direct selection tool right over here. Black arrow, white arrow. A is our shortcut for the white arrow. V is the shortcut for the black arrow. So I've got my white arrow. I'm holding Shift, and I'm not a giant. I want this to kind of come down a little bit more towards his cheek. And I do want that to be kind of a right angle. I'm kind of just looking at the angle. I just want it to be a little bit funkier. Okay, that looks pretty good for right there. I might use scissor, and I might just go snip, snip, click on the V, black arrow, and I'm just going to get rid of that one. So I just want those kind of floating. When we do our pen, or when we start doing our strokes, you'll kind of figure out that those are going to be where the skinny lines are, and then it's going to get all nice and fat coming over here. Now before I get going too far, I just want to give myself some little guidelines here. I'm going to shrink these down, and let's just color them a little different too. And what I'm looking to do is straight down the face. What I'm also looking to do is just say, hey, where is kind of some of these eyes? And the reason for that is I'm probably going to be modifying the character a little bit. The other side of it too is when we start to have a little bit more fun later, and we start designing the actual mask component, or the design of the mask, if you will, these will kind of come into play. And these aren't going to really affect it. Now keep in mind, I'm just holding down shift just so these sort of stay same. Okay, so that'll work out pretty well. Right away, I know I'm going to be modifying eyeballs quite a bit. I'm going to modify the mouth quite a bit, and I might kind of do some more with the design of the character. So this is kind of a fun one where you guys can really go kind of hog wild with it. Click, click. I'm going to come back on itself, and I'm going to come back and switch the colors so we know what we're doing. Okay, I've got my white arrow. I want this to sort of peak right around here, and then it's going to start dropping down. This could actually work pretty well with your just a circle tool as well. Okay, black arrow, click your V. Let's go 1 point just so we can see what we're doing. Okay, pen tool. Click P. Click drag. Alt option. Click. Click on P. That's going to reset it. And I might just do a little bit of a taper coming out, floating out here. Click P. That's going to reset it. Let's just bring that guy in. Looks good. P. Now, in the drawing, this was my original index finger. I like this one to be the index finger after I've been looking at this. So that one's going to come down. And this one's just P. Straight lines. Very Cartoon Network, I guess, when we're doing this. Okay. Now this one's going to switch up a little bit because this is the little guy. This is our pinky now. And I might give it a little bit of a, more of a palm. Let's just go click and then come on back. Now if this is your first video with us, wonderful, welcome. The next thing is we are going to come back through and clean up all of these overages. So if you haven't seen our videos before, typically we try and keep our lines nice and short when using the pen tool. The other thing we try and do is just go and overlap. Keep in mind we can always modify, and then we can always clean them up later. So in this video we're going to just do all of our lines first. Notice that I have not done anything with our brushes yet. And that is designed so you guys can relax and have some fun with it. A lot of times when we're talking to brand new people with our with Illustrator, that pen tool is not their friend. Click, click, click P. Every time I click P, it just resets it. For the pen tool, click and drag. Anytime we have a curve, we are just looking to point in the direction I want. Click, drag. Now notice that I'm about to I don't know if you can see my screen here. I'm about to do this, and I always think that's annoying as all get out. So if anytime you think you're about to slide off the screen, you can always just let go, come back with your direct selection tool, and just clean it up. Okay. Other reasons why we are going to have that overlapping is when we start doing our brushes, these lines are going to thicken up. And so there's going to be a fun little taper, and the angles are usually a little bit off, especially whenever we do our custom brushes. So that is why we are going to just do a little bit of an overlap. Alt Option, come back on itself. This character has a little bit more sharp edges, just so you guys are aware. Let's do the this is for the singlet for all you wrestlers out there. I'm just using the straight line tool. And this one could be, I'm just modifying this from the original drawing just to have a little bit more 3D-esque kind of popping out. And that's going to be, this is going to thicken up, this is going to thicken up, so that's actually going to be really not as obvious as we do that. Alright, back to the pen tool, click drag, we're doing a curve, click drag. I'm coming back, so I'm going to go Alt. I'm going to go right into the hand. Okay, looks good. Click P. Let's reset. Click drag. Click drag. And then if you're ever going, why am I doing P? Just so if I go, oh, I want to do this line, it's going to connect. So why we do the P is it resets the tool, then I can come back over, and it just restarts that line. So if you guys have been having some frustration because these are all connecting, it's just because we're not, you're just not resetting, that's all. I'm going to come over here, click drag, Alt. These legs are super easy. I'm almost embarrassed how easy these are going to be. Click, 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 and I want this one to curve. Boom. I want them to have really skinny little ankles. These might modify later as we do our brushes, because this is going to fat. These lines are going to get really, really fat. Okay. Click P, reset. Click, click. I'm resetting. It's going to be a little overlap, and then I'm going to do a little shadow guy back here. So this is going to be index finger, and then there's going to be basically the shadow of the pinky. So this line looks connected. This whole little part in the middle here is just going to get trashed. Okay, we are cranking, guys. Alright, let's do some easy stuff. Nope, I want the ellipse tool. I'm going to do a little circle V. This is just going to be like him tying a string to the back of the mask. Pen tool, click drag. Click P, let's reset. Click drag. Maybe I want this guy floating up here a little more. These are going to get way fatter. We're just going to use one of our brushes. And all that's going to do is it's going to give us kind of a tapered line going up. So that's going to be really, really easy. Okay. I'm going to do this. Let's save Luchadore. I don't think that's called Luchadore. I made it a little bit more Spanish. Okay. I'm going to... Now let's zoom in. Let's do the face. This is where you guys have a lot more creative license. And also just kind of start to... what I would also possibly do is, if you are looking to really modify this guy, what I would probably tell you to do is, this would be a good time to kind of pause it and just research some luchador masks. So if you guys want to start designing your own type of style or look, that would be kind of a cool little thing to start doing. So let's just kind of research, and then let's start designing the face here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my guidelines here, and I want there to be almost like these eye horns. I don't know what you want to really call them, but I say it's going to go from here. Click, drag, Alt. I want it to come back. Let's go right on these lines. So it kind of look almost like horns. That's going to come right back down here. I want there to be a nice little curve. Alt. And then we'll just hit it like that. Now I want to do a... Let's go Shift C. I just want this point to be a little bit sharper. Okay, so this will be, let's say, the exterior of the eye for the mask. Let's just use a circle for just this curve here. Okay, black arrow, V. Maybe extend this down, and what I'm seeking and what I'm looking at right now is basically the interior up to that corner. Because I want basically mask color up here. This is going to be a different color. And then it's going to move into possibly skin color, possibly an eye color. So I might kind of switch up the amount of colors in here. Or it'll just be white, one of the two. We haven't decided. That's what's so much fun about this. Okay. Now just so we're not confusing, I'm just going to use my little scissor tool. Click, click. Make sure you're on the line. And then I can just delete. Remember, orifices are completely cool. We can clean that stuff up later. Okay. That looks pretty good. Let's go back to P. Click point. I want that to hit right here. Hit your Alt so it can come back. Let's click. This one's going to get a little tricky. Let's go right up to here. Okay, so what I'm looking at now, and this is where you guys looking at your references, this will help out quite a bit. Now, there are definitely masks that will pop off of the head. So it'll almost be like a 3D type of an effect. What I'm kind of looking for is just this outside. This guy's going to get deleted, and then we're going to come back in with the eye shape. So it's just going to be a little bit more of a silhouette on that side. But I still want it to mirror the original shape. So I want it to look still like those shapes are doing the same thing. Let's come back over. Okay, so again, I'm looking for that interior shape. Let's just do scissors. And if at any point these lines get hectic, keep in mind you can always come in, just kind of clean them up. Now, just before you get too carried away, these lines will affect the stroke when we do them later. Some of you are going to like that. Some of you might just want to see what the line actually does and then trim them later. But just since we're getting a little overwhelmed with some lines here. Okay, so now I've got mask. Now I'm looking for... Now we're looking at eyeballs. Black arrow. And I'm just looking for that outside. That one looks good. Hit Alt. You're going to get that white arrow. I'm holding down Shift, by the way. And stylistically, this is where you guys can really have some fun. I'm going to do some fairly white eyeballs. But this could also be just circles, dots. You can kind of have whatever your personal preference is with eyeballs. So if you like more anime type characters, they're going to have their own type of look. If you're looking for more of a Cartoon Network, that'll all have its own type of look. Okay, so this is all going to get deleted over here. But I'm just going to leave that alone for right now. Let's go back to our pen tool. Click drag. My mouth is going to get much, much bigger than the original. Alt Option. Let's just finish that one up. A. Wrong one. Shift C. And again, you guys can have fun with the mouth too. It was really small, and I wanted a much bigger snarl, if you will. Okay. Let's go back to our pen tool. Click P. And I'll zoom in a little bit more. It might be a little much. It might be a little much. Okay, pen tool. Click. This is going to be for the top teeth. Alt. And just for the sake of speed here, I'm going to be extremely cheesy. And shame on me, I know. Click, click, click. With our teeth for right now. Keep in mind you guys can always use arrows. Alt. So I've got a black arrow, Alt, duplicate it. I'm going to right click and let's reflect. And I want it to be a vertical one. Keep in mind you can always just hit preview. And I want there to be a bit of an overbite. Now we're going to come back in and modify. And the major thing we're going to modify is I want this bottom line to mirror the bottom, basically the bottom lip. So I want there to be a little bit more of a S-curve here. Okay, black arrow. Click V. Let's just kind of color it so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to go basically flip these two. If you want the stroke, go for it. I'm just going to say no stroke for right now, just so we can see everything. I'm going to leave it for right now. And really, we can just start positioning. So if I say, and I'm just looking at this top part, I'm just going to use my arrow keys. So I just might modify these a little bit. And what I'm looking for is it looking more like it's grinding. Like the bottom teeth are grinding their teeth. I'm sure that's not the actual sound of a grinding teeth, but that's okay. Okay. He's snarling all right. Okay. And we'll keep modifying this. So if I'm not in love with it yet. The major difference on the other drawing was that the teeth were just rounded. It's something. It's definitely something. Other little thing I might modify is right over here. Okay. There are lines everywhere, guys. Holy cow. Alright, what I am looking for is, for the most part, the only thing we don't have currently is just like a nose. So the other little thing you could look for is kind of the nose part. I think on the normal mask they look kind of weird. So I would personally, I'm not going to add a nose on this guy, but kind of right in this little square, that would be our kind of a nose area. So that would probably be a pretty good area to be adding it. I've got my ellipse tool. And let's just start kind of seeing what our eyeballs are going to do. I'm holding down Shift Option, and that's just to get a nice perfect circle. Okay, let's zoom in. Hit Alt, duplicate it out. Let's just shrink it up. Didn't like that one. Bottom one's always smaller. I'm not in love with it yet, but we can always modify. Hit Alt, duplicate it out. I'm just going to shrink it down a bit. Now keep in mind, this outside circle, that's our eye. And what I'm looking for is a little bit of more white. Okay, so this side of the circle is going to get basically chopped off. Okay, what I would do at this point, file, save. Now we're going to start moving into our lines. We're going to start cleaning stuff up. This is where it's going to start taking on a little bit more shape, and it's going to be, it looks pretty goofy right now. So we're going to switch things up, and we'll do our, basically we'll bring in our cartoon brushes, and then we'll start to modify all of these lines, and we'll start cleaning up those lines. So this is where it's going to be a little bit more of a longer process as we are cleaning up our lines. So what I would do at this point, file, save, change your changes, and then we'll go on to our cartoon brushes. Lower thought process here. Since this guy's going to be overlapped here, it's going to come back up, and this is all pretty much going to be black. So I can go basically a fat, skinny, fat type of a line. And I know that these brushes you can't necessarily see that well, but we're going to go fat, skinny, and if I up this stroke a little bit, you'll be able to tell we've got our thick, we've got our thick. Other little things just to be aware of is, notice that these, I did not attach anything yet. And what we're really looking to do is with these overlappings, notice how that line right through here is fatter. So really what we're kind of doing right now is, as it's overlapping, how fat do I want it? So when we build it, it'll typically be the fattest as it comes through. So sometimes that's really, really easy. This one's just going to be a fat one. Let's just go fat. We're not going to have to do anything goofy to that one. Okay, let's click on this one. I want fat, skinny, fat again. This is all going to get black over here. So this actually doesn't really matter because we're going to fill that. I want that to be basically the same one. Fat, skinny, fat. And I want to take this and just bring that up. Okay, so all we're doing is we're just coming around. This is going to go skinny, skinny. Skinny, fat, skinny. So I want these little guys to be tapered. I want this to go fat to skinny. Fat, skinny, fat. I'm just testing. That's certainly not that bad. I don't mind that at all. Okay, click. I want that to be tapered up here. Now I did give you guys both. I did rotate them, by the way. So if you brought both of them over or if you duplicated them out, that's just so we can click without having to do the rotating every time. I want this to go fat up here, skinny at the bottom. So then I just go click, and then it'll go right to the other one. click. I want it to go fat here, taper here. This one, let's just fatten up. I don't think we have to do a whole lot to it. I want skinny to fat. Now let's drop it down to 1.5. Now for this guy, if you ever see where the lines are overlapping, this is what I'm looking for. It's this time. It's going to be subtle, very, very subtle, as I was just looking for a little bit of a gap. So if I'm losing the wrist, 1, I can change the stroke. 2, I can just come back in and modify that line. What I'm doing right now is when we come back and clean things up, what we're kind of looking for, or what makes our lives a little bit easier, is if they're doing some overlapping. And all that's going to do is give us a much better idea of where to delete it with our eraser tool. Okay, let's go fat, skinny, fat. Now in these guys, whenever we do the circle tool, you can really modify it or just kind of change the direction. So if I want the thick part to go closer to the head, that's all I'm just doing. There's really not a good way of changing the direction of where your stroke is hitting. Okay, that's good. I want this to taper out fat. Maybe this one, I like the other one. Let's just see what that does. Okay. Fat to skinny. Perfect. I want this to go fat to skinny. Perfect. Just knock that down to 1.5. That's probably okay. I want this one to go basically a taper on both sides. Good. Do the same one, taper on both sides. Let's do fat, skinny, fat. Let's go 1.5. Okay, so we have pretty much the inking is taken care of. I've switched over the other one, and before this little next step, you just want to really just double check that all your lines are how you want, all the thicknesses and the strokes are where you want, and then now we are going to clean this up so he doesn't look so funky. So what we're going to do is we are going to click. We want to select everything. I'm going to come up, Object, Expand. And what we're looking for is that every one of our strokes has been expanded. So I'm looking for all these little guys, make sure nothing has a line kind of in the middle there. Alright, looking good. And now we're going to do our cleanup. So I am going to zoom in on the face so this starts making more sense to everybody. Now for cleanup, all I'm going to do is select the line I want. I'm going to go Shift E. Now Shift E is just our eraser tool, by the way. And I just get to come in and get rid of anything I don't want. Major thing is just have what you want selected. Shift E. Keep in mind all these little guys, they have served their fun little purpose. Delete, delete, delete. Okay, Shift E. I want this little overlapping down over here. That's gonna come down. Take that back, undo. I'm gonna zoom in on this just so I don't have to redo. This whole thing is getting deleted. Right through there. I think I'm going to have this pop out a little bit. Shift E. Select. Major thing as you guys are doing this is just have an idea of what you're really looking for at the end, and just think about what you're deleting. I find that as long as you're thinking about it before deleting, there's really not a whole lot of major issues. Click, Shift E. And then just notice that anytime we're selecting or shift, why we're doing the V first, is that it doesn't delete anything else. So I could do this, and it's only deleting the lines that I had selected. I think I want this guy to pop out. Wrong one. Shift E. And if you see any of these little overlapping lines, just use your direct selection tool, and then typically just bring it over, and it works out pretty well. Okay, Shift E. You just want everything nice and smooth. We're just looking for little things that are just hanging out that'll make it look kind of funky. Okay, made it. Alright, so at this point we should be all cleaned up. Our lines are ready to go. For the most part, we are moving on to the color in the next video. So things that you should just be double checking is that all the lines are cleaned up and all the thicknesses are where you want them to be. Keep in mind, if they aren't, you can always go back. Hopefully at this point you did save the other layers, and so you could always just go back and modify thicknesses or lines and strokes, and you can be able to do that. So from here on out, we're going to be moving into the coloring phase. The next video, we're going to be talking about flat color. We're going to be talking about color gradients. We're going to be adding some background text. We're going to be using the Pathfinder. So we have a whole lot more to cover. So just be looking for the Luchador color video next. Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys subscribe so we keep these videos public for non-classroom students. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you on the color video.